Call me a milk bar the way I milk scars. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Skits today. And only today, we are here with a nice, fun topic video. And that is about Sonic's stupid friends. That's right, there's been a lot of chatter lately, just in general about Sonic. You know, Twitter doing its Twitter thing where everybody, you know, is upset about something or yapping about something. But a topic that came to fruition was about Sonic's friends. Who should have priority? What's going on? Is there too much shadow? Is there too much of this, too little of that? And today, I wanted to yap about all of that with you. And as always, before we get into it, please consider subscribing to your boy, supporting the content, and lock in for more videos. All right, so let's start. Now, this actually spawned because there was a tweet going around. I don't remember who it was, but they were basically just saying, you know, how Shadow, if anything, has gotten too much spotlight. If anything, this actual conversation started and sparked because of a Battle Cats collab. They were doing a collab with a game called Battle Cats, and in that collab, they had like Sonic, Shadow, I think Knuckles, and Tails. And so, you know, it had people being like, all right, well, where's Amy? Why Shadow everywhere? And, you know, you've seen a constant conversation debate about what characters should get what year, you know, celebration of that. I'm like, it's not that easy, though. Let's get something out the way first and foremost. Shadow the Hedgehog is beyond the series. And when I say that, he is a staple of the Sonic games, but he's also a staple of the series and a video game character people that don't even care about this series like I know so many people that don't give a shit about Sonic that I've had conversations with. They're like, I love Shadow, though. Shadow's awesome. Shadow's super cool. Like, so many casuals and people out there love Shadow. Now, granted, obviously, you know, in some people's defense, they're like, well, that's the case because Shadow's everywhere. Well, it's not quite that easy. Obviously, Shadow is a very beloved character. He's cool as fuck. It's very rare to replicate a design like that. And also, like, a legacy. I mean, if you think about it at this point, what? Shadow is a 25-year-old character plus. At this point, he's had a lot of time to be existent. And also, like, let's remember, back in the 2010s, Shadow has pretty much disappeared. Like, yeah, he'd make his occasional appearance in, like, Sonic Boom or Sonic Forces, but they're always, like, minor roles. He really wasn't playable in a main way since Sonic 06, right? It wasn't really until 06 to Forces that we got him, which was, what, like, 11 years later? And even then, it was, like, a 1-hour DLC. But then you get Shadow Gens, which is, like, truly a Shadow game, and that was a big deal. And it was not only a big deal because it was Shadow getting the spotlight again, it was also a big deal because it was our first time getting a main character spin-off game in a long time. Now, I see this debate constantly on the timeline. I see people talking about this all the time. And the main thing that people talk about is, what is the next year of? Some people want a year of Silver. Some people want a year of Amy, a year of Knuckles. Well, let's get right into actually why this doesn't necessarily equate in the same way. When it comes to making a year of, a celebration of a character, they need a lot of marketability. They need to be a character that you can go to different companies and be like, hey, we want to put this character on everything. You know, we want to have this on, you know, your motorcycles, your branding, and all this stuff, right? And for companies to approve, they need to know that, one, the brand fits with it, and two, that it'll make them money ultimately. And I hate to say it, but there are not many Sonic characters that are at that point where you could sell an entire marketing line around them. I truly do believe that there is no one even close to Sonic and Shadow when it comes to that kind of marketability. You could argue, obviously, Tails is iconic, right? Knuckles, Amy, you know, those would be in the sphere, right? But even then, like, going as far as, like, making a whole year about him could be very difficult. Now, granted, these characters should still be celebrated, right? And they have been. These characters have been celebrated, right? People bring up a lot of times Amy, right? Amy is the center of a lot of this conversation. People want a year of Amy. They want Amy to be celebrated. They want Amy to be a and I always tell people, I'm like, I feel like Amy has gotten a lot of love over the years. You know, obviously you can have a debate about, you know, how she's being portrayed recently, which I agree, you know, could be better, and we'll see where she's at by the next game. But there is a lot of Amy. I mean, she's in a lot of the random collabs that they end up doing in these mobile games. They made her a full playable DLC character in Sonic Origins. They made her playable in Final Horizon. They gave her like a legacy IDW like solo comic. You know, she's about to be a star in Sonic Movie 4. Like, she is post-credit scene level. You know what I mean? And so I feel like Amy is a character. Like, she was one of the main characters in Sonic Boom. She was in a lot of Sonic Prime episodes where they're different variants. variants. Like, I feel like Amy definitely gets a lot more love and mainstream looks than people even realize and give her. And while again, selling an entire year of Amy could be difficult, I feel like it's possible. I think of any of the characters, I feel like if you wanted to have, you know, a girly pop year, right, you could do something like that, but I don't think it would just be Amy. I think you'd be celebrating all the Sonic gals, you know, but maybe they would at some point. But I just want to point that out, that yeah, like, we shouldn't undersell, you know, Amy. I feel like Amy is really a core part of a lot of the 2010s, if anything. And like I said, she can have a lot more, and I hope she gets a lot more. But you got to remember, it's like, this is the same thing with Nintendo. Let's talk about Nintendo in a sense of the Mario universe specifically, right? Like, what Mario characters, not DK or you know, Splatoon or all these others, what Mario characters have their own spin-offs, right? You would say, would you say Donkey Kong? Donkey Kong's weird. Donkey Kong's almost like its own franchise. That's up. But if we're talking about really like the core Mario universe, right? You get Luigi. Luigi gets, you know, that's the player too. He gets the Luigi's Mansion games. You get Wario, that gets the Wario games, right? And then you get what, your Princess Peach games and your Yoshi games. So you definitely have a good amount of variety of characters that get their spin-offs. And I would like to see that for Sonic, right? That's something that I would love to see, right? Like, I saw a lot of people actually recently saying that DK Bonanza, people wish that they would make a Knuckles game like that, which honestly I kind of agree. Like, that would really be perfect. Imagine you had a Knuckles game where you were like breaking through rocks trying to find Master Emerald pieces and collectibles. Like, I feel like that is really ingrained into Knuckles moveset. Like, I can see like him flying through Sky Sanctuary trying to find different things. There's a lot of cool shit they can do with Knuckles that would be fucking awesome, you know, and I'd love to see more Knuckles type spin-offs. But in terms of, you know, like I said, going back to the subject, we're kind of going all over the place, but in terms of year ofs, right, people always point out the Silver, right? There is a big conversation point that's gone around being like the year of Silver, and actually a lot of people making fun of Silver, right, being like Sega's pockets after the year of Silver and it's 10 cents. I disagree. I think Silver is still pretty cool. And look, at the end of the day, a video game is what sells a video game. I've had this argument with people, right? A lot of people will be like, oh, a Silver game wouldn't sell. I'm like, that's not true, right? Because like, when you announce a new IP for a game, as long as the gameplay looks fucking cool, right? People get invested, they get excited for it, and they'll buy it. You give Silver a game, right? And if it looks fantastic and has great marketing, then that game's gonna sell well. You know, it's not gonna do fucking the psycho numbers, but if they made a Silver game, right, with a cool art style, the trailers were awesome, the previews were awesome and everything, it is going to sell and do well. That's kind of like the nature of video games. Obviously, like, there are some video games that became underrated gems because they didn't sell well, but like, we're talking about a character that's going to be under Sega, and if it's under Sega, it's going to get its marketing push because Sega right now is in their bag, right? They are in the craziest, best position they have ever been in. They actually just at, you know, Evo showed a new Virtua Fighter trailer, and they were talking about how, like, yeah, if they're dropping a Virtua Fighter game, they had a whole statement saying that, like, we have to make this game incredible or, you know, it's gonna flop, and so we're working on making it a masterpiece, right? You have Atlas throwing on all cylinders, and now you have Sonic Team with the biggest budget they have ever had. I mean, are you seeing this shit with Sonic Racing Crossroads? We're talking about a game that is crossing over across multimedia. You know, we're getting SpongeBob in this shit, we're getting Nickelodeon, we're getting Minecraft. Like, these are big money moves for a big money IP, and like I said, these are things that ultimately are going to lead to the success of the franchise. And again, I think Silver will get his due diligence. I do know a lot of people want to see him in the movies. I don't know when exactly. I mean, you would assume Silver is like the last main movie. If they make a Sonic movie 5, like, that's where you have Silver, right? And you have the big three go supersonic, all three of them, and you make like one of the rawest moments in movie history, at least for us, you know what I mean? But I think Silver's time will come, and I think Silver is a cool enough character that, again, a year of is very difficult for any character that is in Shadow, you know? And this applies to a lot of franchises, bro. I mean, like, think of, I don't know, think of Dragon Ball. They don't do a year of Krillin, even though everybody loves Krillin. They don't do a year of Yamcha. They don't do a year of Piccolo, even though Piccolo is massively popular. You'll get maybe a year celebrating Goku, you'll get a year celebrating Vegeta, and even then they don't even do that. You know, and this is also, you know, in some ways you could argue it's a problem and a blessing, right? Because you think of Dragon Ball Super. I know I'm going all over the place here, but like something like Dragon Ball Super, people have always criticized being the Goku and Vegeta show, right? Like, oh, this is, you know, this show is all about Goku and Vegeta. Where are the other characters highlighted? And they try, you know, you'll get like that. That's why we got DBS Superhero is a direct response to that, right? Where that movie just features Gohan and Piccolo and Bulma and, you know, Goten and Kid Trunks, like, or Teen Trunks, I guess. But yeah, like that movie is a direct response to that, right? Or the, you know, Tournament of Power arc where everybody gets to fight. Those are direct responses to the whole Goku and Vegeta show. But at the end of the day, right, those are the two characters that sell, you know, that make the most money, that are the most popular. That's why Daima, right, is a show that, you know, you have weird characters following the cast, but as soon as we get to the ending, that shit is Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 4 Goku. You know what I mean? Like, I think it makes sense to always have the star of the show. Now, I do hope when it comes to Shadow that for the future we get new storylines, right? I think it was okay for Shadow to have his, you know, final says with the Maria story, you know, and that's my big thing with Shadow, is that I think he was dormant in it for a long time in terms of his main story, right? So having you and Shadow be centered, all right, let's tell people the story, you know, let's lock it in, nip it in the bud, you know, with Shadow Gens, him saying goodbye to her, and the movie presenting her. I think now we can go to further places with the character. I also see a lot of people talking about the Chaotix, right? They want the Chaotix to get some big love, and again, that's another group that, while I don't know if they can carry a year of, I could definitely see them get a push for marketing, right? They are going to be playable in Sonic Racing Crossroads, and there were rumors for a long time that Knuckles Season 2 is happening. Now, I actually don't know if Knuckles Season 2 is happening anymore. For those of you that don't know, like, Paramount Plus is going through like a bunch of shit where they don't know if there's going to be a merger or not, and it's like kind of messing up all their shows and stuff, but presumably, we're going to get a Knuckles Season 2, and the rumors are that the Chaotix are going to be part of it. Not only that, but we do have confirmation via IDW, that is a canon comic to the movies, that one of the dimensions that Knuckles was going through originally showed the Chaotix in one of them. So they exist in the movieverse. It's just about like when we're going to see them. And honestly, like, I really like the Chaotix. Like I said, they don't have mainstay power. Those are not characters that are, again, going to rule an entire year to themselves, right? But they're a group of characters that I think deserve some highlight. Another big one people talk about is Blaze, right? That is a character that for a small bit of time felt like Sonic's new player 2 with the Sonic Rush series, which was kind of a big deal. I mean, there's not many games where the only two central characters are a Sonic-like, and Blaze got that handle. And like I said, I think Blaze is another character that I would like to see her playable again in one of these games, but I don't think she's someone that could get her own game. And that's my thing, is like, I don't know. And I'd love to know in the comment section below, please tell me, what Sonic characters do you think could have realistically their own game or a team up game? And what kind of game would you want it to be, right? Because when it comes to Nintendo, they're really different, right? Nintendo's characters are super cartoony. So like for Wario, they give him like a mini game collection. With Yoshi, they give him a platform, right? Like, I feel like, you know, they have some variety with their markers. With Luigi, you know, they'll give him a Haunted Mansion game. And so I feel like I would like Sonic Team to explore different genres with these characters as well. It would be a good way to flex their muscles, right? Like, I would love a Silver and Blaze game. Maybe you could do something like that, right? Where it's a little bit more action oriented, right? They've opened up the idea of open zones. Why not just make a game for Blaze and Silver where it's just open zone, right? And you go, you get some new moves, you get new abilities, like you get some cool cutscenes. Like, those games I don't think have to be speed-based platformers. They could be just a great fucking action game, and that like would mean something to a lot of people, right? Eggman is a character that, you know, I don't think would get a year of. He's a villain. Obviously he's a villain, you know, that people care about, but I think it's a different situation with him. But like we said, Knuckles could have a cool action game. Tails is another character people really love, but again, that's always going to be Sonic's player 2 and Buddy, right? You know, obviously we have little games like Tails Sky Patrol. Like, we have had instances and moments where these characters have had some shine. I mean, even if you go back to the adventure games, right? Like, Tails Knuckles mech gameplay and Knuckles, Emerald hunting are basically different kinds of games within Sonic, right? And people want these types of games, to be expanded. And I kind of agree with that. And I also think like they don't need to go full out big budget every single time for these. These could be add-ons to remasters, right? Like again, if they do an adventure remake or remaster, expand on, Knuckles' story or the Emerald hunting stuff, right? Or if they made, people always talk about, what's another one that they say Sonic Lost World X Silver or Sonic Lost World X Knuckles, right? Where you can include these character storylines in there, or like just make a smaller digital game. I think there's always some sort of stigma around a smaller game, right? But I think it could work. I mean, Sonic Mania was a smaller title, but it's hard for games nowadays, right? Big budgets, bigger thought process and all that stuff. They want these characters to be a bigger deal. But I just think it's important for people to know that the whole notion of the year of is something that really only some characters can do, at least for now, right? Like again, the whole premise of the video and the thought process here is to tell you that, of course, one day we could live to see a year of Amy, a year of Silver. But I think for now, right, the stuff that they do, like, they had the campaign, they're doing like a yearly campaign, if you notice, right? One year was the Fast Friends Forever, right? Which was, highlighting Sonic and his friends, right? You had the year of Shadow, and this year they're doing the Sonic Travels the World Aware of the racing campaign, essentially, where it's all the characters running around the world, right? And so maybe we'll see a year, maybe next year will be, I guess in 2 years it'll be like the year of CD, right? Because we're gonna have Metal and Amy highlighted for the movie, and I think they could do some cool stuff with that, right? But it is important to note that one, some of these characters, it is okay for them to just be part of the squad. Like I said, I like the Chaotix, but do the Chaotix need their own series or game or whatever? I don't know. I mean, maybe one day. Maybe if they prove that they can, they can. But I would like to give, Sega and Sonic Team the benefit of the doubt that they probably want to do a lot with these characters. I mean, that's what's so unique about the Sonic series, right? And here's like a big thing is like, this is a good problem to have. If you have characters that people love and care about so much that they're begging for, different spin-offs or different things from them or asking them to come back or be expanded, that is a good problem to have. That's something that means something. It means that like, hey, you built a world and characters that people give a shit about, and that's why it's cool that Sonic Racing Crossroads probably has the biggest, noticeability of the Sonic cast we've ever seen in a long time. For a long time, the spin-offs had like, a certain amount of the characters, but now it kind of feels like everyone is here, right? At least in terms of the characters people really love and care about. And I'd love to see in the future what they can do. I mean, obviously back then Tails has little side games. Maybe they can give him a new one, right? But I think it's important that Sega knows that these characters do matter. They should be playable, right? And I think they should continue to do stuff like in Sonic Final Horizon, where you have different playable characters, or stuff like Sonic Adventure 2, where like the cast is important. These characters do mean something to us, right? But I think it's also important to acknowledge, some of the business side and reality of it. But again, I would love us to be in a point like where Nintendo is, where again, like, Knuckles can have his own games, Shadow can have his own games, Amy and Blaze can have their own games. I feel like if Peach can get a game, I feel like Amy can definitely get a game, with her cool hammer, cool abilities. Like, there's a lot of dope shit they can do. And even, do some small stuff. Like, how they did Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog as like a little spin-off thing? Do like a little beat 'em up starring, some of the side characters. Get some weird picks in there. As long as these characters are out there, they're a little bit more exposed, they get a little bit more popular, then ultimately, like, the entire franchise wins. But some people just fighting over like which character's getting the spotlight, who's more popular, who's this and that. I'm like, guys, I think the things you want will come. I think that the characters you want to see highlighted will eventually be highlighted. I think we are right now going through this Sonic Renaissance, this beautiful era for Sonic, where these characters are coming back to life. I mean, even just today, they released a Sonic Crosstalk. It was episode 3, and it was featuring like Jet and Wave, and I'm like, oh my god, like just seeing these two interact and talk here is so weird. It's a good weird, you know, where I'm like, oh man, like having you two be the star of the show is awesome, right? Because I even saw some people criticizing that, like, oh, why is Sonic and Shadow, you know, being the rival characters for the animated special? Where's Jet the Hot? You know, and like I said, I agree, right? If it was writers, I would love it if Jet was the star of the show, but it's cool that the characters are getting highlighted and they're being talked about, you know, and even in that video that featured Jet and Wave, they're talking about, you know, Amy, Cream and Cheese, and Big the Cat. Like, we're gonna get rundowns for every character. I think, like I said, Sega is in this period where the series is getting popular again, and it's that slow burn. We're like, all right, we're slowly gonna really integrate characters back in. You know, you had Omega reintroduced because of Shadow against a lot of people in Dark Beginnings. You have, well, Rouge the Baddest, fine, you know, but we're slowly getting all the pieces back, you know, for a whole team, for us to do, you know, maybe a game where you feature the different teams, the different characters, and that'll be awesome. I would love to get to that point where everybody is the star of the show, everybody lives, but I just want to offer a bit of perspective and discussion on this about Sonic's friends, who should take priority, what should go down, and of course, guys, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you all think in the comment section below. Of course, I love you, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.